we take plants. Our Western mind would say you heal because you just have taken something. I just drink a juice of a sap or juice of a leaf, and that's going to heal me. That's not at all what's happening. First thing first, they teach us how to live. Those doors that we pass when it's a rite of passage help you achieve yourself more.
Recently, I had an opportunity to sit down with my dear friend Remi Delaune, an ayahuasca curandero and former Christian monk, for a wide-ranging conversation about talking to plants, dieta, and the importance of rite of passage in our lives. If you're somebody who's curious about plant medicine or just want to learn how to talk to plants, check this episode out. Remi is a force of nature. Get ready. It's time to enter the Wild Lab. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Wild Lab. I am deeply honored today to have one of my good friends, mentor, and just an all-around wonderful human being, Remi Delaune, who is a curandero, a former Christian Orthodox monk. And like I said, he's just a tremendous human. And it's a great pleasure and a great honor to have you on the podcast today, Remi. What's alive for you today, Remi? What's going on?
Well, first, I want to thank you, man, to have me. And so it's a pleasure to have this moment with you. We had the chance to talk a lot when you were here, but I think it's nice to be sharing that with everybody today. And so I want to say hi to everybody who's listening and wish them the very best for everything. And here, everything is all right. The sun is shining. I'm alive. I have a beautiful wife. And so that's all a man can ask for.
Yeah. Yeah, you do. Ashley is a wonderful, beautiful woman. Tell folks where you're calling in from. Where are you right now?
So first, I was born in France. So excuse my French, is that's where the accent come from. But I was born in the southeast of France in 1978. I lived there for a little while, and at 37 years old, I moved to the States because my wife is from the States. She's from exactly the Midwest, Springfield, Illinois. And when we turned 40, we decided to move and to really take a 180 degrees turn, in our life and to do something like really out of our comfort zone, to challenge ourselves to grow more because we felt the need for it than just the comfortable regular life. And so we sold everything, put everything in a camper, all our belongings and dogs and animals and everything, and moved to Mexico, where we found a land deep into the tropical rainforest of the Yucatan Peninsula, where we built our little, very simple little center, where we now provide some healing with plants and just like with nature. Go back to nature, go back to the source of everything and the roots of our life, and in communion with everything. And now people come to see us, heal with us, and heal us too when people come. And so that's
Yeah.
our path.
Remi, you break that down so simply and so easily, but there's a lot more to that story, right? There's a lot more to your story. I mean, it's so. I wonder if you can back up just for a little bit, just so folks get a sense of who you are, because I think personally, knowing you, as intimately as I do, the who you are is so informative to what you do and how you show up in the world, and a lot of the messages that some of the things that we're going to talk about. So can you share a little bit more about your journey from simply, moving from France to the Midwest and then down to the Yucatan? There's a whole, yeah, there's all the years in there that we skipped over. Can you talk a little bit about your time in the monastery?
Yes, for sure. So the thing that really maybe make something a little bit different about my life that I lived so far is that I was a very stormy, curious teenager. I was having very deep question in my heart, metaphysical questions that I needed answers, but it was to survive for me. It wasn't just like, oh yeah, I'm thinking about those ideas, and so I was having like deep questions. Some events during my 17 year when I was 17 years old, I had like a near-death experience by snowboarding when I get stuck in an avalanche for 3 hours, and a very very strong first psychedelic experience with LSD brought me a few months later to the monastery where I entered into a Greek Orthodox monastery at 17 years old, and I spent 20 years over there. I spent my all my 20s and all most of my 30s over there. And at some point, not because of my faith, but because I needed to, because of this deep curiosity inside my heart, I needed to experience the world in a different way than just through the lens of a monastic way of life. So I left the monastery and I went straight from the monastery to the Amazonian forest, where I studied with the Shipibo Konibo for many years, did some long, extensive diet apprenticeship diet over there. And that's where I met my wife. And then after that,
Right.
moved to the States and moved to Mexico. So, yes, it's been 20 years of monastic life. And now about like 13 years of working with the plants and especially Amazonian medicinal plants.
Right. Yeah. Then that is, I think it's really fascinating to me, as you said, that, you had a psychedelic experience that called you into the monastery in a way. And then also it's similarly that, and, you were called out of it for, sounds like similar reasons. Um,
And more than that, in fact, I had in December of this year, I had this psychedelic experience, very strong. I took way too much LSD. Was the first time, and it
mhm,
wasn't at all into a party setting, to like a rave party. No, it was in the forest around a fire with my friend. That's what we are doing. Some kind of like a very informal shamanic setting for my first experience. And this experience and my near-death experience that I had a month later were almost the same experience, almost the same.
mm,
Even visual lights, the experience I have in my visions, and the ideas and this fragmentation and almost destruction of my paradigm of how I see the world, how I interact with the world, everything just disappeared. And suddenly I discovered that there is more to reality than what has been proposed to me so far through the lens of my parents or the lens of
mhm,
society or the lens of school. And so I was in great need, which was very uncomfortable when you're 17 years old, because you don't
mhm,
have the psycho-emotional and intellectual sophistication to deal with those discoveries, in fact, because they were true
right.
discoveries, and they were not just psychedelic experiences or you just get high. No, it was going to the point where life, death are in the line, where the self identity is also questioned, and all those metaphysical questions: who am I? What is consciousness? What is essentially life? What I'm meant to be here, if I'm aware to be conscious, living a conscious human being on this planet, in this huge universe. So all of that brought me to the door of the monastery when I was 17 years old. And
Yeah.
for 10, 20 years, I seek those questions. Basically, you know me. So myself, I don't like
Yeah.
to turn around the pot. My question was like, if there is something that we call God, I have to
Yeah.
meet him first. I didn't
Yeah.
understand after those experiences why people didn't consecrate their entire forces, entire life to seek that first. Once they find it, okay, they can go on with their life. For me, that was not even like an option. There wasn't an
Yeah.
option anymore. So those 20 years in monastery has helped me set a good frame with my relationship with God, to my discovery of this mystery, this magnum mysterium, the great mystery, the big one.
Yeah.
And then from
Yeah.
this frame, my life is now run, inside this frame with my wife and
Mhm.
my work with the medicinal plant now.
Yeah. And that's beautiful. And so it sounds like, I mean, it was a very intentional initiatory rite of passage, right? And a very long one
Absolutely.
as
Yes, those
well.
two
Yeah.
experiences, the psychedelic one and the near-death experience,
Right.
were like definitely rite of passage. And that's very interesting that you say that, because I feel that we have erased that from our societies. And that's why nowadays many generations that we see stay in a form of unachievement for a long time. They are unachieved.
Can you say that again? What do you mean by that?
I mean by that those doors that we pass when it's a rite of passage help you
Yeah.
achieve yourself more, And so you see
Yeah.
generation now where some people are 35, 40 years old are still in the states of an achievement, with their life.
Hmm.
And so I don't judge because I've been in a way also the same. But I think those rite of passage, those rite of passage like that are essential, are crucial.
Absolutely, and I mean it's a huge part of why we're doing what we're doing, and Walker, and I know it's a huge part of. Well, I'm assuming, and maybe you can speak to this a little bit. From my experience of what you're doing, it is a huge part of that as well. Because I would just say, I remember one of the things. So I'd known you a little while. I'd known you, a little while, and one of the things you told me, and I want to get into master plant diets and a little bit of what that means and what it means to have a plant allyship. But since we're talking about rites of passage, one of the things that you told me is that um, this master plant diet that I was about to go on, it will help you. The plant will teach you how to walk this earth. It will teach you how. What do you mean by that? I know what you mean by that now because I'm living it, and I'm a full embodiment of that lesson, of those lessons. But I think it's a really foreign concept for some people to wrap their head around the idea of a plant teaching us how to walk this earth, a plant teaching us how to be human, a plant teaching us how to be a man. For what, can you break that down a little bit? How is it
I
that,
think
yeah,
I think first to go back a little bit is that I think ancient societies back in the days were providing us those rites of passage that they were supposed to give us some kind of vision to lead you throughout your entire life, some kind of destiny vision, you know. So we are achieving a purpose during our life. And so nowadays our society doesn't provide that anymore. They don't provide it
yeah,
anymore. And so there's other ways. And for example, doing a master plan diet, a teacher plan diet like that can provide you with this destiny vision. And this destiny vision is going to teach you how to walk this earth. How can we be knowing how to work with earth, interact with others, interact with the habitat really close to me, with the environment close to me, with this earth, but not on a general concept, in the direct, in my backyard, in my garden, how to interact with this close habitat like that, and also with my community, how to interact, and also first thing first with myself, with my heart, with my emotions, with my own body. The plant teach you how to do that, how to interact in a proper way, in a loving way, in the harmonious way, in a prosperous way, also to interact like that, which is after that where the life vision takes form.
mm, yeah. I wonder, as a man who spent time both in the monastery, both in the church, and in the jungle, in the world of the plants, um, a lot of what you're talking about is exactly what the church, or religion, is meant to teach us as well. Are, are there differences in the ways that I mean, I know there are. Perhaps you can speak to this, but like, what are the differences in the ways in which we learn how to walk this earth through religion and the church, or through the plants? Like, what can you speak to that a little bit?
Yes,
Yeah.
first thing I want to say, I want to do a little distinction is that, and for me it's very important. I come from the Greek Orthodox Church, which kept
Yeah.
its roots very mystical.
Mhm.
And so it's very important to be precise because it has, over the years and centuries, lost very little of the essential original messages. And the very essential original messages wasn't a religion,
Yeah.
established religion. It was a way to live consciously and to live with, to give us some clues how to live properly, you know. And there were also,
Hmm.
back in the days, the early church was providing us the rites of passage to be a man of God.
Right.
That has
Right.
been lost over the years, also over the generation, with all the problem that we've seen over the generation with the churches. And so you ask me if I see any differences between my religious practices and my plant practices. Essentially, for me, no, there's no
Yeah.
differences. is that the means are different, but the goal is the same. The goal
The goal is the
never
same.
changed, but the means have changed for me. That's all.
And you've spoken to it, you've spoken around it a little bit, but what is that goal?
That goal for me is to be, yeah, it's a multifaceted goal. It's impossible to answer your question in one word.
Yes, I'm sure.
If you find a man who can do that, I want to meet him. I want to meet him. And
Yeah.
so the goal, I think, for myself is to free one's heart of any fear,
Mm,
of any form of desire, of any attachment, to be able to reflect as much as possible of God, of the source, of the universe.
mm,
I don't know how people wants to call it, but our purpose on earth is to be a
mm.
unique personal reflection of the source. And that's not being the same you or me or that. And I will die. There will no other way to reflect the source than I did.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
for me, I'm freeing my heart, my consciousness, to be able to reflect it to the maximum.
Yeah.
Reflect
That's
beauty, his wisdom, his generosity, his love, his light. That's all and that's all. And if you look at it without the filter that we have now, that's what the early churches or religion, if you want to use a word to describe it, even
mhm,
if I'm not really a big fan of this word, that's what
mm.
religion is. Just teach us the way to reflect God.
Teach us a way to reflect God to and what I heard in there as well was to let go of fear and to love and to
Yeah.
surrender, right? There's a lot of what I heard in there. And so do you think then that part of the reason, or part of the result, part of the ramifications of some of that the reason that we don't have many rites of passage, and we do have rites of passage, they're just not intentional, and they're not always healthy, and they're not always towards a direction that releases us from fear and towards love. Um, like gangs and drugs and things. Those are all rites of passage as well, but they are not in a very different way. Uh, but what do you, because you see a lot, I mean, like your place, Kumankaya, which is it's full of love and just a wonderful place and almost feels like home and family in a lot of ways. Um, it's also a jungle hospital in a lot of ways, right? And so people come to you sick and psychologically and emotionally and physically and various ailments. Are some of those, and I'll definitely not all, I know this, but are some of those caused by this lack of initiatory processes and this lack of rites of passage in our society? And if so, can you speak to some of the generalities of that?
I think mainly the problem is that with our pleasure dopamine oriented societies, we have put as far away as possible of us the feeling of fear,
Yeah.
the feeling of being in danger. And so all this instinct of survival has been put as far away as possible of us. And those rites of passage back in the days, that's where that was the principal role of those rites of passage was to put us in contact with this fundamental fear of life and death, and so when we lose that, we lose the capacity of growing to this regard,
Mm,
maturing to this regard, and become a peaceful human being. Instead of being a peaceful human being because you have faced your fear, you have ride the tiger inside you of the fear. Instead of that, but we have like people who are avoiding any kind of trouble, avoiding, and then as you said, other type of rites of passage shows up: violence, gangs, drugs.
right.
When people do drugs, overdose, it's a form of rites of passage. And
For
after
sure.
that, the life one, the death of a loved one. And so those rites of passage come to us, but we are unprepared because we haven't been trained for it. Those early rites of passage that traditional society were proposing us,
Hmm.
was to train us to face life with peace, with trust even when nothing is working, but to trust and to keep walking with a slow pace, a steady pace, and to keep walking, no matter what.
Yeah, absolutely. And the preparation, what I take from that answer is, there's, well, a lot of things. One, you can talk about, like, as you said, there are various rites of passages, drug overdose and gangs and things like this. And, one thing that I've found, especially in my own life and in the men I work with and a lot of other people, is that, like, if we don't have God, if we don't have a God, we're going to look for it somewhere else. We're going to look for it in the pills, in the bottle,
In
in
money, in sex.
sure, in pornography and whatever. We're going to try to find it somewhere
Yeah.
else, right? Or we are going to find it somewhere else. We're going to make something else our God. Yeah, and I know for myself that's been a huge part of my own personal development is not placing, um, yeah, the idolization or God, or suppressing the fear, um, in my life, and instead finding it here and finding it in source and finding it all around me. But I want
Yeah, I
to,
think also, Ned, is that
yeah,
mostly to simplify to the maximum, life is just a long, extended rite of passage. Life is an
yes,
initiation. What is the purpose of
absolutely,
this initiation? Is to find yourself and find God at the same time as the same reality. Not that I am God,
yeah,
but when I find God, I find myself. When I find myself, I find God. It's almost this inseparable unity inside us that give us after that all the benefits of this discovery. For the main one is to know that I've been wanted here. I've been
yeah,
called here. I'm important here. I've been
yeah.
wanted, you know?
I've been wanted. Yeah,
Yeah.
I do. I've been wanted, and I think that's a feeling and a message that so many people need and don't have as well. You know, the feeling of, yeah, of belonging, of knowing that we were called, that we are here, and we are here for a purpose, and we are here, and we are loved, and we're connected. Not only connected, but we are one with God, with this, with Source. And I think it's been for me. And I was having a conversation with a friend on this podcast the other day about this difference between, a lot, in a lot of circles we talk about sovereignty, and then we also talk about the universal, and that dichotomy that exists between the two of those things, right? But then I am this identity, but then I am also connected to God, and I am also a part of the universal. And it was, I think, a very difficult thing for me in my own self to understand, that dichotomy, until I learned it from the plants. I think that is something that I directly did learn from the plants.
What's very
Um,
interesting is that the spirit of the plant, when the plant talks, it's always a very simple way, but always
yeah,
implying a bunch of mixed feelings, not mixed in, but like really complex feelings and
yeah,
complex thoughts too, in just one word, in just one vision, in just one insight. And so what's important to, I think, is to maintain this complexity inside us. Nothing is simple, and the
right,
simplicity, it's complex itself.
yeah,
So I am nobody, I am nothing, but at the same time, I've been wanted, and I have a purpose, I have a vision that leads me, and I have also I am the universe, and I am everything at the
yeah,
same time. We have to
yeah,
maintain those two contradictory thoughts inside us to find our way in the middle.
right. The middle way. Yeah, thank you for that. I think I I wanted you mentioned plant language, which is something that I'm fascinated by, and I think, in your world especially, um, that's what you do, is talk to plants. And I would say it's also what I do, and it's what a lot of us do, but it's a slightly different, conversation and a slightly different medium. So I wonder if you could talk a little bit about talking to plants, about what you mean by plant language, because I think for some folks that's, you say that, and it's like, what are you talking about? You
Yes.
know,
First,
like, what does that mean?
first, to be able to answer your question, I need to set the frame. The frame is that there is the materialistic reality, material reality. We live in,
Yeah.
we interact with, we are it by our body, and everything is on a material level. There is another super sensible aspect of reality, which is in a very subtle ways. Back in the days, they were talking about etherical reality.
Mm.
When we were saying etherical, we think like in the sky. No, it means subtle, subtle. Etherical, it means a very subtle matter. And so when we understand that there is the materialistic level, this material plane of life, and there's this subtle plane of life, and those the two side of the coin like that. When we understand
Uh-huh.
that, we can understand that the plants as a materialistic entity, as also a subtle um, subtle origin, a
Mm.
subtle origin. When we say that the plant talks, we talk about this super sensible aspect of things, the subtle reality, the subtle plan of living, where the plants are from there talking to us, teaching us how to live, teaching us how to
Mm.
grow, teaching us how to respect the nature around us, teaching us how to develop a philosophy of living that is in harmony with everything. You understand? And so
Yes, yes, and absolutely. Yeah.
that's basically you have the plants and the spirit of the plants, basically. And my role
Yeah.
in my work is to maintain the connection between those two realities.
To maintain the connection between the plant and the spirit of the plant.
Yes, into
Yeah.
between the material plane and the suprasensible plane. It's a form of diplomacy, energetical diplomacy.
What do you mean by that? Can you yeah, break that down a little bit more? I've seen it in action and I've felt it. And so I know what you're talking about. But if you can translate that for, people that are listening.
So basically, into the world vision, the world view of the tribe that I've learned from the Shipibo in the Amazonian rainforest, but also in very spiritual view of life. Okay, we take plants. Our Western mind would say you heal because you just have taken something. I just drink a
Mm.
juice of a sap or juice of a leaves, and that's going to heal me. That's not at all what's happening. What are they
Mhm.
saying is that the spirit of the plant is going to heal you through the plant you just drink. You need
Uh-huh.
to drink the plant, so inside you, you have the energy of the plant, so the spirit of the plant can heal you through this energy. So basically, my work is to facilitate this um, it's to facilitate this meeting, this encounter between someone
Uh-huh.
who takes a plant and the spirit of the plant. That is
Right.
essentially the one who's performing the healing.
So say that again. It is the spirit of the plant that is the one that is performing the
Yes.
healing, right? Yes.
Yes. I
Yeah.
am just here to facilitate it and make sure that the person is not going to lose themselves in those dead hands of the imaginary world.
Uh-huh. Can speak to that a little bit because what I've heard you say many times, um, is, and what just came up for me right there was you talk about no fear, no fascination. And so like what I hear you saying is that, like, look, the plant spirit is the one that is the healer, the plant, and I am just the facilitator that is steering it so that they don't lose themselves in this imagination. And so what came up for me there is no fear and no fascination in a ceremony. Can you explain what that means a
It
little
means
bit?
by that when we drink the ayahuasca, especially because this is what we're talking about, during a session
Yeah.
of ayahuasca, a ceremony, we drink ayahuasca. My goal when I drink it is to enter into a form of a trance, a lucid, conscious trance, where I can myself almost disconnect myself from my normal self or my ego, if you
Mhm.
want, and enter into this suprasensible level where I'm going to call upon the right spirit to perform the healing for this very specific person that I have in front of me.
Mhm.
And so into this journey, it's not a one-way, very easy journey. There's
Mm.
many obstacles. There's many danger over there. There's many difficulties because when you open those gates of the spirit world, it's like when you jump into the ocean to fish a super good fish that you want to eat, you're not going to find it right away. You might be in danger
Right.
because there is some sharks around, there is some jellyfish, very deadly jellyfish, and so it's the same when we enter into this state of strength like that, we need to find the right way, the safe way to the connection with the right spirit, the doctors, as we call them, that they
Mm.
perform the healing for the people. And so
Yeah.
when you open those doors, the first one to show up are not the good ones. The
Mm.
first ones to show up are the trickster ones, are the dangerous one, are the transactional ones, the one who give you
Yeah.
something but want something in exchange and etc. And so those are layers that you have to go through with no fear and no
Mhm.
fascinations to go
Right.
through to get to the point where fear and fascination are not even a language over there. It's something different.
And the reason why I asked that question, and thank you for answering it, from a very practical, pragmatic sense of the in ceremony when you're drinking ayahuasca. The reason, however, I asked that question is that, like, I feel as if that message has a lot of lessons outside of that space and outside of that ceremony, right? The the idea of not having, being able to just, well, yeah, no fear, no fascination. I wonder if you could speak to, because I think it's one thing, right? I think, and we can talk about this in a lot of different ways, but I think especially when it comes to the world of ayahuasca, especially when it comes to the world of plant medicines, it's oftentimes really easy to romanticize it. It's oftentimes really easy to romanticize the ceremony and romanticize the healing and all the things. I think one of the things that you've taught me and that I've learned in my own for myself as well and from the plants is that, like, listen, it's really more about how we take this back to the real world, how we take this back to our lives, to our partners, to our children, to our fathers, to our sisters, to the people in our lives, and to our own self. So I just wonder if you could speak a little bit to that. And it doesn't have to be necessarily about fear and fascination, but to the power, or to the importance rather, of taking the lessons that we learn in a ceremonial space and integrating them into our own lives.
So first thing first, I think that what can we bring from an ayahuasca session into the real life is that everything passes. Only
Mm.
God remains, even ourselves are passing, our
Yeah.
emotions are changing, our insights, our like, wow, that is a genius idea, and everything is passing, everything is changing. There's just the origin of everything that is not passing, the spiritual sun is not changing, but we are passing. So what can we take from it? I think what's important to take from that is that our sense of identity has to be very flexible.
Mm.
Our consciousness should stay at the level of pure potentiality without any type of identification. To say it in very simple words, a session of ayahuasca is like a river, and life is like a river. What makes a
Mm.
river? It's not the water. The water is always different. What makes a river are the banks.
Mm.
And we are the banks, and the waterways passing through those banks are going to be different. Sometimes they are going to be very beautiful, sweet waters. Sometimes they are going to be like outrageous waters, through like almost like stormy waters. And so we have to maintain the banks with no identification to the waters because the waters
Mhm.
are just flowing through us like that. And so that's something that we can bring into our life. Like no matter what's going to happen, I'm in a good place. I'm not in a good place. I'm struggling. I'm having addiction. So I'm like, oh, I'm in a depression and everything. No, those are just the waters. Those are not the men.
Mm.
And our
Mhm.
sense of identity, sense of ourselves, should remain extremely flexible and
Mhm.
adaptogenic. And just at the stage of pure potentiality. I am
Hmm.
everything and nothing at the same time.
Yeah. At the stage of pure potentiality, I am everything and nothing at the same time.
That's one thing.
Yeah,
After that, I think also one other thing that is that
yeah.
it's that we just talked about it just before we started recording. It's also that life will come to an end at some point, and
It will.
ayahuasca is teaching us how to die properly. Who I want to be when my last click on my clock will come. You know, when it's going to be the last moment, my last breath. What type
Yeah,
of man do I want to be? What type of emotion do I want to have in my heart? What type of
yeah.
thought I want to have in my mind? And ayahuasca, among other, I don't say it's the only one. No, no, it's the one I know myself.
Right.
Are training us to die in a proper way, in a free way,
Hmm.
in a loving way,
Yeah.
in a very curious and enthusiastic way.
Hmm. Well, you being French, I know you're and also a philosopher because you also study philosophy, right?
Yes, yes, absolutely.
Yes, yeah. But you're familiar. I know you're familiar with the term la petite mort, right? And the little death. And I've always, well, I've often been fascinated by, and this stuff comes up a lot in this podcast, and I might have to change the name of the podcast because of it. But um, uh, the idea of the little death, which we can refer to sometimes as orgasms, but also with each breath, with each intake of breath and each exhale, we are always living and dying. Is a philosophy and a thought that I've often been fascinated by. And so when you're talking about, the plants teach us how to die, um, how do the plants teach us how to die?
Mhm. But first thing first, they teach us how to live.
Yeah.
For example, a tree is never fighting his own growth. A plant is never fighting his own personal growth. They want to grow
Hmm.
to the maximum they can until their very last moment when they finish and boom, they're died. And so
Mm.
that's already something that it's important because we are fighting our own growth. Sometimes we don't want to change. We're fighting this change. We're fighting our own evolution. I think we are the only animal on in this huge universe that is sometimes fighting his own evolution, trying to slow down
Hmm.
his evolution, or because we're afraid of newness or of the unknown. We're like slowing down our own growth and our own change, you know. And so plants and trees don't do that. They grow to their
Hmm.
maximum, to their fullest until it's finished. So first they teach us how to live, and secondly, they teach us how to die in a way that they are not afraid of it. They're not afraid when they died. It's just okay, something that is going to follow, keep, and that is going to nourish the cycle, to maintain the cycle of life, to maintain everything. And so they
Hmm.
should teach us the same like that, you know. And so each night when I go to bed, it's a little death. Each
Hmm.
time, each morning when I woke up, it's a little resurrection. It's a new spring of life, you know. And we should approach
Hmm.
life with a new, like a new set of mind and a new eyes every morning, you know,
Hmm.
because it's a new life. And I like
Yeah.
the Stoics when they say that every day should be lived like an entire life, every single day.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that phrase, we always hear it is written everywhere, live each day as if it's your last day. It never settled right with me, Remy. I never liked that phrase. I think largely because there was so much fear wrapped around it, and I like to re-envision it and say similar to what you just said, which is live every day as if it's your first. Live every day with wonder and awe, and approach it with a learning lens, because there's so much to learn, there's so much to grow. Whereas, like, well, if this is my last day, well, I got nothing to lose, like it's a slightly different perspective of looking at the world. Yeah, I like what you had to say there about the plants teaching us how to live and how to rise each day. Yeah, that's quite beautiful. Thank you.
Mm.
So I wonder, what does it mean? Well, I don't wonder. I know. I wonder if you could speak to a little bit about what it means, or what a plant master plant diet is specifically, and what it means to be in relationship with a plant, and what it means to have plant allyship. It's the same question, really.
Okay.
So I know it's a three-part question,
So,
but yeah, what is a master plant diet?
yeah.
Go ahead.
So basically, when you drink the ayahuasca, which is the main doctor, is going is it's
Mm-hmm.
like going to your general doctor to do a
Mm-hmm.
diagnose. And ayahuasca can do a lot by itself. It can do tremendous thing, to physically, psycho-emotionally, and energetically, no doubt. But sometimes we need to go to see a specialist because our condition requires a specialist. That's what a master plant diet does for us. It's not just drinking ayahuasca, it's also taking a plant on the side that has been given to us according to a diagnosis that has been done prior to the taking of the plant, and this plant is going to help us achieve whatever we want to achieve. First thing first, our healing. And so
Mm-hmm.
we're going to take a plant. Our body is going to be infused by the energy of the plant. We're going to have to change a little bit the different ways our body function normally by changing his alimentation, his food, changing his relationship to social relationship and stuff like that. For example, also social medias and everything to put our body in a context where it's all about the plant growing inside us. It's almost
Mm-hmm.
like planting a seed, and the plant is growing inside us to the point where the energy of the plant is so strong inside us that we are in kind of a energetical similarity with the spirit of the plant. And he recognizes us, and that's where we have the contact with the spirit of the plant.
And so you talked about preparation before, right, to an initiatory process. And I know a master plant diet can be, doesn't have to be, but it can be an initiatory rite of passage. Um, why? Yeah, can you speak a little bit to the preparatory process and to a little bit more about um, the actual diet part of it and the importance of that?
Yeah, thank you for saying that because it's very important. Usually people don't understand. And I want to go back to what I explained earlier, the two different plants, the material plants and the subtle plants. And
Mm-hmm.
usually when we live our daily life with the rhythm and the pace of society, we are unable to really enter in communion with the subtleties of life,
The
the
subtleties of life.
subtleties
Yeah.
of life, and also because
Yeah.
our way of life, of way of living, the food we are consuming, all the mental stimulation by the social media, all those physical, mental stimulation, almost take us away from the subtleties that
Mm-hmm.
maybe before in more traditional societies, it was easier to enter in contact with the subtle lands of the universe,
Mm-hmm.
the subtle parts of the universe like that.
Right.
And so the whole preparation is about getting us more subtle, to simplify our energy, to simplify our distractions. Basically, is to turn the volume off of anything outside and to turn the volume on of everything inside.
Right.
And so we are
Right.
capable of entering into the subtleties of life and understand the language of plants because the language of the plants is subtleties.
Hmm. It's subtle, and yet sometimes it can feel like they are yelling.
Absolutely.
Right?
But they're yelling
Yeah.
when the volume has been turned on.
Right.
When everything has been shut off from outside, like movies and distractions and sexual stimulation, food stimulation, everything. As I give you an example, if you want to see, you're looking at river like that, and the river is running, running, and when it runs very fast, there's all this mud within and branches and everything. But if you sit on the side of a river and river start to come down, at some point you will start to see your own reflection on it.
Mm.
That's the
Mm.
subtlety of it. That's when you start seeing your own reflection. then you're ready to talk to the plant.
Mm. Yeah. And I think so. I think for some people, right, like it's we can do this in ceremony, we can do this in a master plant diet. And I think that's really powerful. And I think that, for those people that feel called to it, absolutely, step forward into that space. And at the same time, as I've alluded to and you've alluded to as well in this, um, it's also important to do it outside of the ceremonial space, right? At least that is to connect to the plants in ways, why, well, let me ask the question this way. Maybe it's not important. Why might it be important to connect to plants and have a plant allyship and have a relationship with a plant outside of a ceremonial space? Like what might be the benefits of that? And also, I love the two-part questions, but and also how might people do that? Because I know that you do that as well. And so, yeah, I wonder if you can speak to that.
Yes. Why it is important to have some kind of connections like or to this nature? It's because of what we talk about, because the world is not just material. The world is
Yeah.
material and suprasensible. Is also,
Mhm.
I wouldn't say spiritual or energetical, I say suprasensible, beyond our senses, beyond
Mhm.
what we can understand, beyond our senses. It's also of this nature. And so we as a human beings are essentially like that. We are material by our physicality and interaction with the world, interaction with our community, but we're also spiritual, suprasensible. And to
Mhm.
develop those abilities of awareness of this suprasensitivity, it's very important because we are really expanding our consciousness, expanding our senses, expanding our sense of living, our way of being in the world, our way of being with others, our way of listening to the world, listening to others, within our entire self, not just with our ears. That makes sense?
Mhm. Yeah, no, absolutely. Absolutely. And I can speak for myself and, on some of the academies that we have and the rites of passage that we're doing with our school. We ask people to drop into silence and into silent meditation, and to try to develop in a short amount of time and in a very different way, but to try to develop some sort of relationship with a plant. And I think that in my own experience, it can be really powerful for people, whether in ceremony and obviously, yes, when we drink ayahuasca or whatever in those ceremonial spaces, it can often be in our face, right? And I bring the question up though before because I think it's important that to know that we don't always have to drink ayahuasca to have these relationships with the plants. We don't always have to. I mean, yes, we can have it on a deeper level. We can also listen to. I mean, I know the pinions out beside my house and the junipers out beside my house call me crazy, but they speak to me and they tell me things, and we have a relationship, you know. And I give them offerings of tobacco and of water and of prayer and things like this. And it is only, but like you said, it is only in that stillness, when we create stillness, not just yes in our lives, yes through the food that we eat, and as you said, the noise and desire, sexual desire, and these things, um, but stillness in our body, right? Stillness that comes from within, um, that we can actually listen to that. And I think there's something really powerful, and one of the things I really like about the Shipibo tradition and the practice of master plant diets is that they're also, what I'm speaking to is very connected to place. They're also very connected to place, right? Like the plants that, so, and by that I mean, certain plants, that come from certain places, they have certain qualities and they have certain, um, characteristics that are endemic to those places. And so I'm just wondering if you can speak a little bit to perhaps in the Shipibo or in your own understanding of it, but the importance of connection to place in this relationship that we develop with plants, be it in a ceremonial space or be it in the material world.
Hmm. So first,
Yeah.
to answer your first question is like, no, it's not absolutely necessary to drink ayahuasca to connect with the plant. We just use ayahuasca to a tool to heal this capacity that we have inside that in many people has been damaged, has been turned off, you know. And so
Mm-hmm.
the for me it's different. It's a tool. This is how I can diagnose for the people and be in contact with those energetic field like that where I bring back the information and the energies and the healing for the people. So it's different, but for the people, no, it's not necessary. Back in the days, the people were not drinking ayahuasca.
Right.
Only the healers were doing it. Nowadays, where we people wants to understand and wants to, and also to be honest, it's a very nice experience to have all those visions and understanding. So it's also
Mm-hmm.
very motivating, you know. And so I understand
Mm-hmm.
that nowadays we came to this use of the medicine. But back in the days, it wasn't like that at all, you know. So it's not absolutely necessary. And I think, as you said, through meditation, through prayers, through vision quest, through self dialogue within yourself, and then so we can reach those places where we are in contact with the subtlety of life when our consciousness starts whispering again, whispering the
Mm-hmm.
mystery of life and the secrets, you know, of everything. And so that's for sure, there's no doubt about it. um, After that, for your other question is like during an ayahuasca ceremony, the plants is a booster for it. So when
Yeah.
we take the medicine, as you know by yourself, by experience, becomes way easier to do because we have this boost. I want also to emphasize something. The ayahuasca, the chemical contents, the alkaloids, as we say, contents of that ayahuasca, is nothing else than element that we already contain in our brain chemistry,
Right.
the armine, armaline, and then the 5-MeO DMT, the DMT, and then dimethyltryptamine and everything. All of that is already contained in our brain chemistry. Very interestingly, it has a part to play into the photosynthesis that we're still
Hmm.
producing because of the very, very, very ancient, the most ancient part of our brain, you know. And so in this way, we're very similar to plant, you know. We're almost parent with plant. And so
Wait, what? Can you? I'm gonna interrupt you there because you hit on something that I hadn't heard you say before and I didn't know. There is a photosynthesis process going on in our brains still. Is that what you're saying?
yes, so the most ancient part of our brain, the reptilian part, where the amygdala is also
Mm-hmm.
back in the days was closer to the bones, and so was in contact with the light of the sun. And we
Hmm.
were producing a certain form of photosynthesis too, making something out of the light, pure, pure sheer light, making energy out of it, like the plants are doing it, you know. So, and the plants, we
Yeah.
know that that's how they live, and that's how they sustain themselves, you know, break down the nutrients from the ground, and that's how they grow. That's how they, and so we still after that with the evolution of the brain, this part has been more getting more lower into our brain, and it's the really
Mm-hmm.
most primitive part. So for sure, the activity has lower too, but originally, our brain, like in some lizards, still was meant to produce photosynthesis. Some lizards are still doing some photosynthesis.
Hmm.
And so that's
Hmm.
very interesting. For example, the chameleons, change of colors, also probably
Mm-hmm.
we don't know if this is not a part to play into that, you know. And the
Hmm.
DMT and 5-MeO DMT have a role to play into the photosynthesis, into the plants and
Hmm.
spiders also. And very interestingly, there's two moments in life where we produce DMT, 5-MeO DMT, all those
Mm-hmm.
alkaloids that we find again in ayahuasca or in other plant medicine or animal medicine, like the buffalo
Hmm.
warriors. It's we produce we there's two moments in our life where we produce so much of those chemicals that we would have like a tremendous ayahuasca experience is when we are born and when we're gonna die.
Right.
And so myself, I
Right.
like to think that each time I drink ayahuasca, each time I drink my medicine, I go to the same gateways, the one when I arrive
Right.
here and the one when I'm going to leave, you know. And so
Right.
for me, it's very important because I don't see it as I poisoning myself, putting a foreign
Hmm.
element inside myself. No, I'm boosting my system.
Hmm.
It's a boost of the
Hmm.
system, of the chemistry of the brain to be able to develop some abilities. I don't want to talk too much about of those abilities because some people understand them as like superpowers,
Right.
and they are not
Right.
superpowers. They are natural powers
Hmm.
that people were having naturally, but because of the
Yes.
modern world, because of the pace of the modern societies, the stress, because of the production pressure, work production pressure, and everything, we have lost the abilities of being naturally capable of some stuff that to some people who seems to be superpower. And there is people
Right.
in the Amazonian forest right now that have those abilities that for them it's
Yeah.
normal. I give you an example. I give you a very simple
Please.
example. The, I met a curandero one time, a very old shaman. He showed me his cell phone. He said, back in the days, we didn't need that. It was pure talking to each other.
Hmm.
We
Mm.
say telepathy now.
Mm.
Telepathy,
Right.
superpower. We have this whole background, CIA studies about no, 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 no,
Sure.
no, no. It's nothing to do.
Yeah.
It was a natural capacity, and it wasn't like talking the way we imagine. I talk, and someone is going to hear me like that. No, we don't know exactly the nature of it. But he
Yeah.
told me like back in the days we didn't need that. I didn't need that to tell my colleague, which is like miles and miles away, to tell him during an ayahuasca session what I need to tell him.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
nowadays, because we understand it as superpower, we are not capable of understanding what it truly is. Because they are not superpowers. They are natural abilities, subtle abilities that we don't really know the nature of it. And there are
Yeah.
many of those like that.
I, absolutely, and I really appreciate you calling attention to that because in my world when I'm out tracking or I'm out hunting or I'm out just walking in the woods, I oftentimes what I get a sense. I get a sense that something is watching me, or I get a sense to go in this direction. I might lose the track of a bear. I might lose the track of something, and I don't know where it's going. I can't see anything. I don't have a track. I don't have any blood or any hair, any footprint or anything like that. But I know. I have a sense. I have an intuition sense that it's that direction or that it's over there, and I get called to that direction, and I go. And often, right, it's that intuition. When I really listen in, when I really attune into that space, is accurate, is correct. And, I mean, that's akin to what you're talking about as a superpower, but it's not a superpower. It just, it can only happen though, Remy, when, like, if I've been I'm still teaching. So if I've been teaching and I've been on social media a whole bunch and I have like all this distraction, all this noise, all these things, or maybe I'm not right in alignment with my own life in a particular way, I can't listen like that. I can't hear the subtleties, that the forest is telling me, that the mountains are telling me, that the bear is telling me. I can't hear it, right? It is only when, as you said, I've turned down the volume on certain things, and I've been able to sit in stillness, and I've been able to, um, I'm also in alignment with who I am and in integrity with who I am. That's when I'm able to do those things, right? And so I really appreciate you calling attention to like, look, this. Yes, it happens in ceremonial space. Yes, it happens in the Maloka, and we can connect to these subtleties. We can connect to these to these ways of being and these ways of knowing and these ways of understanding outside of those spaces as well.
Absolutely. And for the people, for the indigenous people, they will probably laugh at us to be in such an
Yeah.
ecstasis of those their wars. This is normal. This is
Yeah.
as normal as a plant growing. It is something that they don't even discuss. It's like, oh, you think it's like, well, it's normal. This is the way it is.
Yeah.
Another thing that the plant teaches also, and that is not a superpower, but it has some kind of ability, is lucid dreaming, the capacity of
Mm,
dreaming,
yeah.
and to be in contact with our dream world, which is
Hmm.
where we can find our true guide, lifeline, and guidelines,
Right.
to be a fully spiritual, aware human being, as God has wanted
Hmm.
me.
Can you speak to that a little bit? What is there to learn from the dreams, and what do the plants have to teach us from the dreams? Because I do know that you're right, especially during a master plant diet. Those are hugely important and powerful. So can we just unpack that a little bit?
Yes, I mean by that the dreams is the theater where you can really meet the spirit of the plant in person. It's
Hmm.
quite rare, but there's a moment where you don't dream about what you have in your subconscious anymore, but you dream about the plant themselves. And you visit their world, you visit
Hmm.
their spaces, and you start to see like landscapes and stuff that is not coming from your subconscious. And then in this landscape, in these very places of the plant, world of the plant, you can meet the spirit of the plant, the main spirit of the plant, in person and have a interaction with it. And so, also, what the plant wants to teach us is that lucid dreaming, to be as aware while dreaming that I'm aware while I'm talking to you. And so, what the
Hmm.
plants are teaching us when they give you lucid dreams is that we are aware awareness being, conscious beings, and the
Hmm.
consciousness is far much beyond our daily basis awareness and our night when we sleep. Now the consciousness is way broader than what I'm using right now to talk to you, or what I'm when I'm lucid dreaming, it's like way much more.
Hmm.
And so basically by true lucid dreaming, the plants teach us also the nature of our consciousness and
Hmm.
also the nature of reality. That
Hmm.
reality is way much
Hmm.
more than what we think it is. And so
Yeah.
those are the
Yeah. Yeah.
teachings
Yeah.
from the plant that are teachers, those abilities that are seems like superpower. They are not. They're just natural things that we should all be able to do. And most of us
Yeah.
can do it when we're children, and we lose it over time
Right.
because we are domesticated,
Right.
castrated by our
Yes.
education.
Yeah, and thank you for using the word domesticated, because I think it absolutely is that, right? Yeah, castrated from our consciousness and from our childhood and from some of those, as you were saying, quotes around supernatural powers, and from our very essence, essentially. Um, yeah, Remy, thank you so much, brother. I really appreciate this conversation. I wonder, I want to be respectful of your time.
Anyway, I have a very materialistic problem that my battery is about to die. And so,
Okay. Okay. Well, we can wrap it up here. If you have the one thing you want to leave people with, what would that be, Remy?
well, it's just to enjoy also life. We are
Yeah.
also, what make me grow more is those life-giving emotions, happiness, gratefulness, love. That's what
Mhm.
make my consciousness grow and flourish, open and wants to give more to others, to give back to community. If we have
Yeah.
fear, attachment, resentment, all those emotions are closing our consciousness. They are not bad emotions. They are not negative emotions. They are just
Right.
narrowing, like in a funnel, our perception of the world.
Right.
And we
Yeah.
should broaden our expand our consciousness because we want to reflect the source as much as we can.
Absolutely. Beautiful, brother. Thank you. And if there's people out there that want to come sit with you in ceremony, with you and Ashley, into your lovely home, your lovely place in Kumankaya, how can people find you?
Well, we have a website that we are restoring right now. It's www.kumankaya.com. And so that's where you can find all the information and everything like that. And you find the phone number of my wife where you can talk to her and book and everything. And so we would love to be able to share this experience. That's what's the best. That's what gives me joy, to be able to share this experience with people. And that's also one of the reasons why I left the monastery, to be on the ground with
Yeah.
people, to be on the field with them,
Yeah.
and to be in the trenches with them when there is some suffering and when there is some addiction pain, when there is some physical pain or whatever the pain is like to be there with them and to tell them that it's not the end of it. There
It's
is
not the end. It's
there's
not the end of it. Yeah.
no
It's
there's
not the
better
end of it.
days.
And you're wanted, right?
Absolutely,
And you're
highly.
wanted. Yes, highly wanted. Well, thank you, brother. I really appreciate it. And if there's anybody out there who feels called to, sit in ceremony with Remi and Ashley in their beautiful home, I can't recommend it enough. I know it's been a huge inspiration and a huge part of my own personal development. So, yeah, give them a call. You won't forget it. And so, thank you, brother. We'll see you soon, hopefully. Yes.
Thank you for having me. I love you, my friend. You take
Yeah.
care.
I love you as well,
And
brother.
yeah, you take care and we stay in touch.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So for those folks out there, tune in next time to the Wild Lab. I'm going to be out there wading the rivers, tracking the bears, and writing prose. And I hope you are too. So until then, stay wild.
Stay well. Bye bye.
Thanks for listening to the Wild Lab. If today's conversation stirred something in you and you're ready to connect to your own inner wildness, then check us out online on Instagram at Step Into Your Wild, or go on over to www.stepintoyourwild.com to learn more about our coaching services and wilderness academies offered through Walker's School of the Wild. Look, this is real work for real people who want to live with more clarity, more purpose, and more strength. But you don't have to figure it out alone. Let's walk this road together. Until next time, stay curious, stay connected, and stay wild.